Perfect. And then again to the south, careful with that one. And then we're going to settle in that mid position between north and south, where your pubic bone is on the same level, in the same plane as these two prominent parts of your pelvic bone. So we're now going to go west to east. So keeping the thigh bone still. Laura, if you tip over towards the west, perfect. Back through the center again, and then tip the pelvis over to the east, lovely, and come back once more towards me, and back through the middle, and over to the other side, and back, and we're going to settle now in that mid position. You should feel as though the sacrum here, the middle of the sacrum here, is nicely anchored on the mat, and your fingertips on the pubic bone here are level. You've also got to be a little bit careful that you haven't hiked one side up here, so that you keep equal length on both sides of your waist. So you're neither tilted north, south, west, east, but settled in that mid or neutral position. Now, this isn't a position that you hold. We're going to be going in and out of neutral as we do the exercises, but it's very useful to be familiar with that neutral position, as it's a good place to start and finish a lot of the exercises. Down into your lower abdomen. So some wonderful deep, deep breaths. Stretching your spine out. Once you've found this neutral position for your pelvis, it's more likely that you've got a nice neutral position for your spine as well. We're going to need for you to be able to recognize neutral lying on your back in this position, on your side, in 4-point kneeling, seated, and also in standing, which is what we're going to try next. Now we've come up into standing, it's much easier for you to see that elongated S shape of the spine. Notice the gentle hollow of the cervical spine, the curve of the thoracic, the hollow in the lumbar spine. And you can see the skeleton's already found its neutral position, the pubic bones in a line with the prominent part, the front part of the pelvis here. So he's already found his neutral position. Let's look at that now on Laura. Now Laura is standing nice and tall here. She has her feet hip width apart and parallel. That will help her to find the neutral position of her pelvis. And let's just do a north to south in this position. So let's just tuck the tailbone under. That reduces the curve in her lumbar spine, and then she comes to the south. That increases it. That's uncomfortable, so let's settle in the middle. And then you can really see the lovely elongated S shape of the spine. And that's what we want, that elongation, that axial length through the spine. It's one of the things we're trying to achieve through the exercises. Okay, let's look at it now from front on. So I'm going to turn the skeleton around here. Laura, if you could turn around to the side. And again, let's start. It's always important to start with the feet. They're the foundation there. Hip widths apart and parallel, knees soft, length through the spine. Now you can see Laura's collarbones here, nice and wide. The collarbones here on the skeleton, nice and wide. And again, Laura's taking the length through the spine so her shoulders can just relax down into her back. Both sides of the waist are of equal length, they're nice and long. And just standing like this means that all your deep postural muscles in your body are working. It's an exercise in its own right. It's very important to find good alignment and good posture before you move on to the next fundamental, breathing. You're never going to get the Pilates breathing right if your posture is cramped and forward. You need to elongate and open the body first. So moving on now to the second fundamental of breathing. And Pilates uses what we call lateral thoracic breathing, which is just a posh way of saying breathing into the back and sides of your rib cage. So looking again at the skeleton, the area we're going to be focusing on are the ribs here, the lower part of the ribs and the back of the ribs. And as you breathe in, I want you to think of your ribs opening a bit like an umbrella opens, And as you breathe out, the ribs are going to close. Now, when you breathe in, there's also a very important breathing muscle here called your diaphragm. That's going to naturally lower, and you'll find your abdomen comes out slightly. Don't block that, that's a natural thing to happen, but still I want the focus to be a little bit more into your sides and into your back. Now, to help you learn that, we're going to do scarf breathing. So for this, you need either a band, stretch band, a scarf, or a towel. And we're going to wrap it around Laura's ribs here, nice and wide. If you tie it at the front, it leaves your arms free. Is that fairly comfortable? Lovely. So what this is going to do is give you some feedback. So now, with length in the spine, Laura can direct her breath into the band. It just gives you that feedback. And as you breathe out, you'll feel the ribs closing down. So just do this a few times. Just be careful not to force it. It's a natural breath. Don't overbreathe. If you feel giddy, stop, of course. But just getting that sense of the ribs opening and closing. Again, thinking of that umbrella opening and closing. Or if you like, a balloon being blown up and a balloon closing down. And just a couple more breaths. Keep the length in the spine. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Keep the breastbone soft. So the focus is on the ribs. And relax. Now, the other thing with Pilates breathing is we're going to use the timing of the breath. And when we go through the workouts, I'm going to be telling you to breathe in to prepare probably, breathe out to move, or perhaps the other way around. Now, it's inevitable that to start with, you're going to get a bit confused. The main thing is you keep breathing. Don't stop. Don't hold your breath. If you get a bit mixed up, just continue with trying to breathe into your back and into your sides. You're also going to see that we'll use the timing of the breath to help facilitate particular movements. So your ultimate goal is to get the breathing right. But as Mary Bowen, one of the lovely elders of Pilates, once told me, it took her 50 years to get the Pilates breathing right. So we've got a long journey before you get it perfect. So we've looked at alignment, we've looked at breathing. It's time now to look at centering and to think about the core. And for this, I want you to think of the core of an apple. It's what runs down the center of you. And it's control of this core that's going to be so important for the Pilates exercises. If I can let you look after that for me for a minute, Laura. Thank you. So we're going to be utilizing the internal cylinder that's created by your abdominals, your back muscles. I've already mentioned the diaphragm, your breathing muscles, and the bottom of the cylinder is your pelvic floor. And this flexible internal cylinder is what's going to help us give support to your spine and help you to achieve your core stability. So what we need to do now is learn how to engage your core muscles. And this is where there are lots of different ways you can do it. And different schools of Pilates use different cues. You can use zip and hollow, you can use scoop. Joseph Pilates used to say navel to spine to engage these core muscles. And what we're going to do now is to investigate what is probably the best way, or what I think is the best way to find your core muscles. And then you're going to take a breath in and reach one arm up towards the ceiling. And breathe out as you drop the arm back down. Drop the shoulder down. Perfect. Breath in and reach the other arm. And drop the shoulder blade down. Probably the easiest position to locate your core muscles is in a seated position. So you could be sitting on a chair or on your mat. Now, we're going to initiate the movement from your pelvic floor and draw the muscles up from your pelvic floor, up inside, until we can find those deep abdominals, and they're going to support your spine. So there's no polite way of saying this. You're going to start the action from your back passage. And I want you to imagine you're about to pass wind, okay? So what you can do is you're going to gently squeeze your back passage as if you don't want to pass wind. And then you're going to bring it forward to your pubic bone. And then you're going to draw the muscles up inside. And as you do so, you should feel your lower abdomen gently hollow. So let's try that. So we're sitting nice and tall. Take a breath in wide to the ribs. As you breathe out, gently squeeze your back passage. bring it forward to your pubic bone, and then draw the muscles up inside very gently until you feel your lower abdominals just hollowing out. Now hold that and breathe. So this is why you have to breathe wide and full into the rib cage. And then release. Let's try that again. Breath in. As you breathe out, gently squeeze the back passage. Try not to squeeze the glutes. Bring it forward to your pubic bone and then up inside until you feel your lower abdomen gently hollow. Keep that gentle internal zip as you breathe wide and full into the ribs. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed, no tension in your jaw, and then release. It's a very subtle action, and different people find different cues help them to find it best. If you find that cue of zipping up from the pelvic floor too difficult, you can of course just gently scoop your abdominals or do navel to spine. What is important is that the action is done very gently and that you don't zip up inside too high, because if you do that, you're just going to make your whole trunk rigid and you're never going to have a flexible spine or get fluid movement. So the action is very gentle. And the idea with this deep core connection is that you only use as much as you need to control the movement. That's the essence of centering. So for some of the exercises, the more difficult ones, you're going to need to use a lot, of course. So if you think of it as like a dimmer switch on a light, when we're doing the easier exercises, you don't need to use very much of this deep core. As we go on to do the harder exercises, you need to turn it up a little bit and use that little bit more. You only want to use the right amount to control the movements that you're doing. No more and no less. If you zip up too hard to start with or use too much core to start with, you've got nowhere to go. So less is more. So when we're using this fundamental principle of centering, we're going to use the core muscles in different ways. They're going to help to control your movements. And in some of the exercises, you'll be keeping your pelvis and your spine still as your limbs move. In other exercises, you'll keep your limbs still and your spine and your pelvis will move. And then in other exercises, you'll be learning how to move your spine segmentally, bone by bone, through flexion, extension, rotation, and side flexion. And it's the appropriate use of the core muscles that is central to centering. So let's look at using your core in a different position in 4-point kneeling. Anaya here has come into the 4-point kneeling position, and the reason I'm holding a pole along her back is it shows you exactly the shape of the spine we're looking for. As you can see, you've got a gentle hollow here in your neck. You can see here the back of the thoracic spine is touching the pole. She's got a little gap here in the lumbar spine, and then the pole here is resting in the middle of the sacrum. Very often, when we're doing the exercises, I'll talk about points of contact, the back of your head, the back of the ribs, and the center of the sacrum being in contact with the mat. And this shows you very clearly that shape that we're looking for. And we can lose the pole now. I'll just put that down. So let's look at trying to find this perfect 4-point kneeling position. First, we're going to go through 2 wrong positions with the upper back, then 2 wrong positions with the lower back to find the right ones. So you've got your hands directly beneath your shoulders, your knees beneath your hips. Spine is lengthened. Take a breath in as you breathe out. We're just going to round the upper body now. And then breathe in, breathe out, and then sink down between your shoulder blades. Now they're the 2 wrong ones. Let's find the mid position. So now in between, collarbones nice and wide, neck long, your gaze is just forward and down. Now let's do north-south with the pelvis. So we're going to roll the tailbone under to roll it towards the north, and then stick your tailbone out for south, and then we're going to settle in the mid position here, that neutral position. So now we've got that lovely elongated S shape. So now let's look at that core connection that we've been talking about, that zipping up from the pelvic floor. So if I place my hands here on Anaya's back, and Anaya, forgive me, let your abdominals relax into my hand. Okay, now stop cheating and really let them relax now, thank you. Nobody ever wants to let them relax properly. Now take a breath in. As you breathe out, gently pull in from your back passage. Now you're trying to impress me, less, less, less. You don't need to use too much. So taking a breath in. As you breathe out, gently engage your back passage, bring it forward to your pubic bone and up inside. That's much better. That's that gentle dimmer switch we were talking about. Now see if you can breathe and hold that gentle core connection. It's fairly obvious if you over-engage, you'll find your back moves or you find you can't breathe. We want that zip to be very, very gentle, that gentle core connection. Perfect. So let's look at this core connection in a different position. So coming now onto your front, you're going to lie in a straight line, pop your forehead on your folded hands and just take a minute to make sure you're in your neutral position. Now, it's very easy to cheat by using your buttock muscles, and this is a good position to check that you're not doing that. So, once again, taking a breath in. As you breathe out, gently engage, coming from your back forward to your pubic bone and up inside. Now, did you see that? Hopefully, you didn't see anything, because that means it's right. Now, can you do it wrong for me, Anaya, for a minute? So, breathe in, breathe out, and really over-engage. Yeah. That would be an incorrect recruitment. That's using too much. You're using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Less is more. So you just want a nice gentle engagement. Buttock muscles are staying relaxed. It's all going on inside. So again, breath in. On the out breath, gently zip from back to front to make that core connection. And you'll feel your lower abdominals will automatically hollow away just gently from the floor. So let's find that core connection now in the relaxation position. Now, if you remember, feet to hip width apart and parallel. You can check by putting your fingertips on your pubic bone, the heel of your hand on your two pelvic bones to check that you're in neutral. Collarbones nice and wide. Use a head cushion behind your head if you need to. Just close your eyes for a minute, Anaya, and feel those 3 points of contact. Back of the head, back of the ribs, back of the sacrum, the back of the pelvis. And then now, let's just take your hands and just put them just inside your pelvic bones. Just feel inside those bones. Take a breath in wide to the ribs. As you breathe out gently, back to front, inside. And you should feel your lower abdominals just hollowing away from your fingertips. And now try and breathe wide and full into the ribs. And relax. We'll do that again. Take a breath in as you breathe out. Pelvic floor back to front, up inside, lower abdomen just scoops out, and you should feel the lower abdominal muscles hollowing away from your fingertips. If they bulge up into your hands, you're working too hard. And if you can't breathe, you're working too hard. And relax. So remember I mentioned that sometimes you can use your core muscles to keep your pelvis and your spine still while your limbs move. We're going to do a leg slide now, and I want you to leave your hands in this position on the pelvis, checking that your core stays gently engaged, and we're going to slide one leg away along the mat in a line with your hip. Your job is to use those core muscles to keep your pelvis and your spine still. So take a breath in. As you breathe out, gentle core connection, and then slide one leg away. Keep the foot in contact with the mat. Take a breath in wide to the ribs. Breathe out, draw the leg back again. You should have kept your core connection. Back of the sacrum stays nice and still, spine stays still. Breath in. On the out breath, core gently engaged, slide the other leg. Now let's go with the other one. That's it. Perfect. Now again, pelvis stays still. Breath in and out to come back. Let's see too, we can do the same thing again. I want you to notice if there's a change at all in the position of your head, your ribs and your pelvis. So you're now going to think about the whole length of the spine. So breath in and out breath, core connection, slide the leg away. There should be no change in head, ribs or pelvis. Breath in, out, draw the leg back. And last time with the other leg, breath in and out, gentle core and slide. You don't need much core for a simple leg slide. And back. Great. Now, that challenged your pelvis. It would have wanted to go to the south as the leg went away. This next exercise, we're going to move the leg out to the side from the hip, and you're going to be challenged west to east. So it's a different challenge for the pelvis. Once again, it's your core muscles that are going to help keep your pelvis and your spine stable. So we'll start with this leg. We're going to open the leg out from the hip. So breath in, and the out breath, gentle core, and open one knee to the side. Perfect. Breathe in, breathe out, draw the leg back from the hip to the center. Breath in, on the out breath, opening the leg this way. Now, make sure you're not cheating by using your hands. They're just there to check the core stays engaged. And back. In fact, if you wanted to make it harder, let's make it harder for you. You take your hands away completely. So let's do the same thing this way. So breath in, out, gentle core connection. Much harder now because you haven't got your hands there to help stabilize you. Now it's your muscles that are doing it. And back, breath in and out. So keeping the weight even on both sides of the sacrum. No change in the head, the ribs, or the pelvis. Fantastic. Let's bring your arms back down again. We'll keep them down by your sides, and we'll now challenge it with the knee fold. We're going to hinge the thigh bone up from the hip into this position. Okay? So, again, noticing head, ribs and pelvis, breath in wide, gentle core, and then fold the leg in from the hip. Keep an angle here of about 90 degrees. Breath in and out, opening the hip to come back. Now, your pelvis is probably going to want to tip. It's your job to keep it stable and still. And then with the other side. Now, try not to fix with the other leg. That's cheating. Lots of ways to cheat. And again, we can make that a little bit harder by drawing the arms up. And core connection, perfect. And coming down. So not fixing with any other part of the body. Make sure you can breathe into the ribs. Make sure there's no tension in your neck or your jaw. And coming back. And then we'll lower the arms back down again. Welcome to workout 1 of the Pilates core program. This is a full